Hey YouTube, how you guys doing? My name is Kyle, you know me as Dragonmar, and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be going over what I have done to stay and win at Immortal 3 and in High Elo. I'm going to be giving you guys some of the advice and some of the tips that I've pretty much been using throughout playing here, and what's allowed me to continue playing here. So I got about 7 things I want to go over, and with that being said though, I do want to mention that I also have started personal coaching. So if any of you guys are interested in getting coached, all the information is on my Discord. I've had an incredible amount of people sign up, so please understand that I may not be able to book you right away, but feel free to reach out with any questions you have. All the information is on my Discord. And with that being said, well, let's do this. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about when playing in High Elo is non-stop callouts. So this is something that I've really started to emphasize on stream and also explain to people, is that you need to be constantly making these callouts to your team so that they know exactly what's happening. You've seen me talk about this a lot, but if you come to my stream and you're watching me play on my main account, you'll see me do it too. And what I mean by this is, just calling a strat at the beginning of the round is great, but callouts throughout the round are really what can change things. So, if you know that 2 players are sort of in mid or on the other site and that a site is clear, calling that out is extremely important. You shouldn't just assume that your teammates or anyone else alive knows that. So by making these callouts, you get everybody on the same page. Now, another note about callouts is that calling things you hear is also incredibly important. And if you don't know why, the idea here is that your team can't always be in range of everything you can hear, right? You might be a few steps forward, they might not hear something. So just calling simple things out that you think people know is sometimes one of the best ways to get your team on the same page. And obviously just communication in general is huge here. But you'll see me in my games, I never stop talking, it feels like, which I understand can be annoying. I try not to get to that level, but there is definitely some real value here. And I think this is something a lot of people struggle with, especially when they enter these higher elos. They really struggle to communicate with their team properly and to make these callouts that are expected of you throughout the rounds. Whether it be a spike dropping, an ability used, or a player spotted, all of these things should always be getting called out. All right, so the second thing I want to talk about is playing for the team. So being a team player, what does that really mean? Well, at higher elo, especially Immortal Plus, where individual performance doesn't matter, being able to play for the team, being someone who's not afraid to die for your teammates to win the round is so important. A lot of people, surprisingly or not surprisingly, probably not surprisingly, still do not play as a team player. They play so selfishly that they will never ever anchor a site, and they will just sit there and they will push constantly, going for those ego frags, going for hunting for kills, things of that nature. And this is a real problem, and this is something that I've tried to stay away from entirely. Is I am willing to be the player who sits on a site and just anchors it, just in case there's that small chance that for some reason this guy rotates over to our site. That way they don't get a free plant off. Even if we win the round, it causes a lot of chaos when somebody in like a 1v3 suddenly gets a plant you didn't expect. It's like, oh great, now this guy has a chance to really win this. So that is who I've started to become, and I think part of the reason for this is I rely on my teammates a lot at higher elos, especially when you get in those Immortal 3 Radiant lobbies where everyone pretty much knows what they're doing. You kind of start being able to rely on your teammates to do the right thing and do the smart thing, and that's why I have no problem sitting on site, kind of being a little bored, but just doing my job and making sure we win the rounds, because at the end of the day the round differential is what really matters. And that's been really easy for me, and it's something that people at higher elo really need to get into their head, is that your individual performance is meaningless in the grand scheme of things, especially if you do not win the game. I'm entirely focused on winning the game, so I do not care if my team wants me to play a certain position that maybe isn't going to get as much action, right? All I'm doing is trying to win the game. All right, coming in at number 3, focusing on headshots at long range. This is something that took me way longer than I was hoping for to really get control of, and even then, obviously, it's not the easiest thing in the world. But a big problem for me is with a lot of players, when you're fighting someone at long range, you tend to start spraying them, and a lot of times you'll settle for body shots as well. And what I've started to focus more on at range is I understand I generally have a little more time to take these shots, and I would started to adjust my crosshair in making sure that my first shot is always at least where I think a headshot would be. This is has been really useful for me moving forward, because I noticed that whenever I would fight at range, I would lose. And I thought to myself, I must be doing something wrong. And I realized I was committing a bit too much and going for too many sprays instead of those bursts and those taps. And if you watch me now, you'll see a big difference, at least if you've watched me before in the past, where now when you see me take a fight at long range, I almost always am tapping or bursting them, resetting the fight, making sure that I have that crosshair lined up on their head. Obviously, I won't always hit a headshot, but it has helped me tremendously. And at high elo, you kind of realize that headshots are everything. You can hit 3 body shots, but that other player might hit that headshot and they're good enough to do it. That's why it's so important, and that's why I really nail crosshair placement into people's heads, because once you start hitting headshots, suddenly you stop taking damage because the enemy can't even get a shot on you. You start winning fights quicker, allowing you to do more in these rounds. It really means everything once you can start headshotting. So at range in particular, this is something I've worked on a lot, is sort of getting that crosshair into the right spot and going for those taps and bursts instead of the sprays, even with the Phantom, right? You guys know I love my Elder Flame Vandal, but I do use the Phantom a lot too. And even with that, I have completely stopped going for the spray downs at range. It doesn't seem to work. It's a super bad habit. So that's something I've had to get rid of. All right, so to the fourth tip, the fourth thing I've been doing that I want to talk about is playing what/where I'm comfortable. This is really, really important. There's been a lot of talk about this recently, even seeing videos being made where people are telling you to only play, the agents you're comfortable with. And I'm not entirely on board with that, but I am definitely one of those people. So it's kind of hard for me to not be on board because it just makes me a hypocrite. I pretty much only play Omen. For anyone who hasn't watched my streams, I pretty much only play Omen. And the reason I play Omen is because I'm very good at him and I feel very comfortable with him. And I like being the one on the team in charge of smokes because I feel like I have a good understanding of how smokes work and how they can best be used for the team, to the point where I sometimes don't trust my other players on my team to be able to use smokes. Kind of a control issue there. Which might be sad, but nonetheless. So first and foremost, I play what I'm comfortable with. This is really important at high elo. You do not want to be playing in high elo stuck on agents you are not familiar with, things you do not play often. That is going to get you in a lot of trouble. On top of that, I play where I'm comfortable as well. This is a big one for me. Instead of letting people kind of dictate exactly where I play, I definitely now know where I'm good at and I will go there. So for example, on Icebox, I like playing a B site sort of towards middle, being able to work in kitchen and also on the ground there under tube. On Ascent, I like playing mid. On Bind, I kind of like playing either site. A is my preferred site for sure. And then, just everything, right? I know exactly where I want to play. And that's been really useful to me because it means I've become so familiar with these sites that I kind of know exactly how I can play around them with Omen. And this gives me a really nice opportunity to get some really, really nice kills that maybe the enemy team doesn't expect because I know the site so well and I know how to play it with my agent. If I were to play a new site or a new spot every round, every game with new agents, it would take me so much longer to learn and understand how to play around these places. So a lot of people out there are kind of in that position where they're on a new agent every game, they're playing new positions every game, and they're wondering why they're not getting better as fast as they want. Well, I think we've just answered that. All right, so tip number 5 is that I am willing to be traded. This is kind of like playing for the team, but in particular, it's talking about trading kills. So a lot of what happens is baiting in high elo games. Or even in just every game, right? I mean, why am I saying high elo? Everybody baits. But one thing I've started to do in my games that I think has made a positive change is I've started telling people to trade me or bait me. And I will go in and I will purposely swing corners and peek and take kind of bad fights, kind of low percent fights, because I know my teammate is close behind me and they're going to be able to trade that kill. I think that this is really important because this is kind of that selflessness that a lot of us need. And what it does is it allows your team to kind of work together and get that confidence going, knowing that they can rely on you to do stuff. It really builds the team up and helps you so much. When people are kind of just standing in the doorway together and no one wants to go in first, that's a huge problem. And that's kind of where I come in. And I'm like, hey, I'll go in first. Like, I don't care if I'm playing Omen. Like, it's fine. One, obviously, like tip number 2, trusting the team, but really willing to be traded and understanding the importance of trades. I know that I might die, but if I die and we trade that kill, we get site control, which is so much better than us sitting around here for 10, 15 seconds trying to spray this guy down. Let's just go in. Let's have somebody die. Let's trade out the kill. Let's keep the round moving. Remember, a lot of what gets people what loses games is how much time they take to do something, and a lot of that can be attributed to people's sort of cowardliness when it comes to trading, and their sort of tendency to bait their teammates instead of being that selfless one running in first. So that's something I've really tried to adapt in high elo, because once again, my team is very good. They're gonna hit headshots. They're gonna hit their shots, and I can rely on them to get these kills even if I die. And I for the greater good, right? For the greater good. And now tip number 6 is calling strategies when my team won't. So as you guys know, I recently made a video on IGL / shot calling. And part of the reason I made that is because I've been doing it a lot recently. I don't do it every game. It's definitely not something I want to do every game, but I definitely call strategies. Now, there's a few things I want to say here, especially in high elo, is that a strategy generally is going to help your team win. Not always, but generally. That's why I tend to do it. You could just default and let kind of people do what they want. But I have this strong belief that 5 players doing something that may be kind of stupid is way better than everyone just playing by themselves and maybe playing a little more safe, a little more smart. So even if your strat is to call it kind of a weird rush, I think generally as long as everybody's on the same page, that's when you start winning. That's when you start, sort of forcing your way into sites. Even if it's not the prettiest of things, it still tends to work fairly well. And as long as you guys are doing the same thing together, generally that will work. So it doesn't have to be a rush, right? You could be splitting, you could be defaulting, you could be, having whatever it may be. But when a team works together, it obviously helps them win. Now, with that being said, a lot of times you're going to find yourself in games where maybe no one's calling strats, but they're making callouts. Now, those are not the same thing. Calling strategies is a little bit different. You don't have to call one every round. I don't think I ever do that. But generally speaking, I will say, hey, let's go, XYZ this round, and or let's do this at this, in 20 seconds, or let's execute at 45, or whatever it is, or I'm going to smoke here, let's go here, whatever it is I'm doing. I still like calling strategies because I really do feel like the games where you feel like you're going to lose are games where nobody is talking. So communicating, calling strats is something I really want to continue to do. All right, tip number 7 is staying positive and encouraging your teammates. So this is something that is so important, especially for low elo players to understand, but also high elo. You cannot put your team down and expect everything just to go smoothly. People who feel the need to criticize teammates, I just don't understand what you're thinking. Like, constructive feedback is one thing, but it's all about how you present it. So one thing I've been really working on is staying positive throughout my games, especially in team chat. I never complain about my teammates in team chat, even if I want to, or even if I am thinking it in my head. And I'm always encouraging, always saying like, nice try, even if after they lose a clutch or whatever it may be, just saying nice things, or if someone does clutch, congratulating them. It's really cool and really important to sort of keep the morale up of the team. Like I was just talking about, when people don't talk, you can feel the difference in your team. Like, people will just stop talking. They'll stop working together. Everyone will do their own thing. You'll just start force buying every round. I know you guys know what I'm talking about because you've been there. Those are the worst type of games. So staying positive, especially in high elo when you're playing such good players, really important, because a lot of them, honestly, their mental is a little fragile. Some of them, they can get tilted pretty easily because they're so good. When they do bad, it really makes them upset. So being positive with people, encouraging them, and that kind of stuff, something I've really tried doing more of, and I think it's really been helping, and at least making my games more fun and more enjoyable for me, but also overall helping teamwork as well. Remember, when people are talking, they're communicating as well in game. So that's a big part of it, right? A lot of people will complain about their lobbies being quiet, and then you'll ask them, hey, did you see anything? They're like, no one else was talking. It's like, oh, well, there you go, right? I mean, that's part of the problem. So this is something big, and something I think we can all do a little bit more of, especially in high elo. I've worked pretty hard on this, and I think it's paying off. I think being more positive is helping my own mental and my team's. And tip number 8, sort of the final tip I want to go over, though, the one thing I've been working on a lot in high elo is I've been playing time on post plant a lot more. I did this a lot on the stream today, actually. It just is so important to understand that once you start getting up in the ranks, whether you guys are like gold, maybe plat, or once you start getting up to diamond, especially immortal, these people can hit some nice shots, and you don't want to deal with that. So what ends up happening is people end up not playing time, and when you're in a post plant situation against such high skilled players, they hit headshots on you, and they only need that fraction of a second to get the kill and then defuse the bomb. So what I've been doing, obviously, is I have been playing time a lot more. This means I have been making sure my plants, because I often have the bomb, I make sure my plants are always for post-plant positions. You guys know I talked about this recently in a video as well. So I'm always planting for a good post-plant, and I'm going there myself. And this has really helped me. I used to stay on site a lot more when I was in lower elo. I used to stay in site and just kind of fight people and, you know, use and work around my smokes. But honestly, playing post plant, it's really simple. It's really easy. It can be a bit boring because generally you're not killing the guys always, but playing time, you know, it's just so crucial because a lot of people don't understand that, like, you're losing rounds because you're peeking when there's like 10 seconds left. Dude, just don't peek for like 4 seconds. He literally can't defuse when you go shoot him, right? I mean, it is so frustrating. It's so hard to watch. You know, you still see it every now and then. But if you guys are looking for tips and win high elo, definitely play time on post plant. Stop getting so aggressive, and really start playing smarter. All right, guys, and that's going to conclude the video. Just want to talk about some of the things I've been doing at Immortal 3 that have helped me stay here and helped me get so many wins. I've been really enjoying myself, and I just kind of want to share what's been working for me and some of my thoughts so far. Hopefully, you guys find this helpful, even if you're not in the higher ranks. I still think there's a lot you can learn from this, kind of see what my point of view is and my perspective is now. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Take it easy, and peace.